Well, good morning, good afternoon, good day. This is Roger Roadside saying hello. Hello. Listen, Crowborough. Is it Crowborough? I think it's Crowborough. I always get it mixed up with Cobra. I don't know. But listen, what an absolute disaster. And my heart goes out to all the families and people that live in that area. I mean, you know, I was listening and watching a few this morning on telly, sort of tell the tales of where they're situated and just how close the barracks that are now going to be housing 500 odd blokes who, you know, we have absolutely no idea about who they are, where they've come from, what their background is, what they're capable of, what they've done in the past. We don't know. We've got no idea. But hey, we're just going to plonk them on a community's doorstep, and you know, just think that's acceptable and that's okay. It's just sad. It is really sad. You know, there was one couple that was on telly this morning, and they were talking about how their property is essentially almost on the grounds of the barracks as well. You know, their driveway or their main driveway comes up from the barracks, and their backyard sort of you could walk from their backyard into the grounds of the barracks, and so now, you know, it's just an elderly couple, you know, an elderly couple who, you know, have a little bit of a veggie patch, some bees and all that sort of stuff, and I think, you know, from looking at the gentleman, you know, perhaps in his 70s, and his wife is now scared of going down to the backyard for now fear of just some wandering asylum seekers who, you know, could do anything really, and I think that's tragic, mate. You know, for someone, you know, well done. You've lived your life here in Britain. You've got through it. You've probably worked. You've probably paid your taxes. You've you know, done everything you can for the country, all that sort of stuff. You've moved out to the country to relax and retire and stuff like that. And then, oh, yep, no worries. And on your doorstep, we're just gonna whack 500-600 odd, you know, potential criminals, potential rapists, potential, you know, bad people. And I mean, we don't know they're bad. We don't know anything about them, but we're just going to dump them on your doorstep, essentially on your property, really. I just think it's a joke, mate. It's an absolute joke. And the sheer fact that they've not done any, you know, I mean, the town apparently has been trying to gear up as much as they can. There's been loads of CCTV cameras sort of installed. A lot of the residents there have started installing their own cameras on their properties. You know, security cameras, CCTV cameras. You know, people now when they get spoken to, or they speak to journalists and stuff, they talk about how, you know, up until now they've been more than happy for their kids to just walk to school, and now they'll probably have to drive them. And I mean, it's heartbreaking, mate. It's heartbreaking, and it's, you know, there's a lot of people that perhaps might not understand why that's heartbreaking. They might just think, well, it's our job to house them. It's our job to do something for them, because more than likely we were the reason why they've become, you know, they've got themselves into this situation. Look, mate, it's not Barry and bloody Glennis's fault that you know, their place is a rubbish tip, that they want to get out of it, and there's no opportunities over there, and they can't be bothered, you know, working, you know, putting in a hard day's work or getting their hands dirty in their own country, that they want to come to another country that's just going to give them a few benefits and a better way of life, you know, free of charge without having to work for it. I mean, that's essentially what this comes down to, isn't it? It's essentially those who are fleeing these places, you know, more than likely in the Middle East sort of region, the African region, and so on and so forth. It's basically a case whereby, you know, your country's stuffed, or doesn't have, it doesn't have as many opportunities as what Britain does, or as what America does, or anything like that. But you just can't be asked doing any work there. You can't be asked fighting about it. You can't be asked fighting for it. You're basically just coming here because you know that you're going to get a better way of life without having to do any hard graft or having to do a day's work or anything like that. So, look, I understand why they're coming here. I just don't understand why, we've got a government that is allowing it and is just turning an absolute deaf ear to its own people, its own citizens, its own culture, its own history, and it's just saying, stuff it. We don't care about that. The rights of these people are higher on the value list than what you are, and that in itself doesn't ring right. It doesn't ring true. It doesn't it doesn't fill me with a great deal of hope, in the sense of, do we have a government, do we have politicians that are doing the best thing for us, or are they doing the best thing either for themselves or for their own agendas? Now, if I'm a politician and I'm trying to get votes, and I know that the majority of people that live here and all that sort of stuff don't like me, then of course, import as many bloody people as I can. Let me pretend to be doing well by them by letting them just come in here and giving them, everything under the sun. And when it comes time to vote, at least they'll probably swing me a vote. I understand that philosophy, and it's just crap that we sort of live in that day and age where politicians still are just liars. They're all liars, mate. They all lie. They all just do things for their own agendas. They do things for their own, to further their own career, to establish their own dominance, to imprint their own beliefs and all that sort of stuff. They're all just liars, mate. Politicians are all just liars, and that's all there is to it. Like, there's no any politician, whether it be Farage, whether it be Starmer, whether it be Badenoch, whether it be anyone, ultimately they're all just in it for themselves, and that's the sad truth of things. And yes, you may get some that come into power that do a couple of good things, but eventually and essentially it'll reach a point, and it'll reach a time when they do things or they'll implement things that serve their own purpose. I think there's no greater time in history where there's probably been an example of that happening than now. I think now is the greatest example of a politician, a prime minister, going so far against the grain of what is wanted, what is required for this country, not only for the safety of this country, but also just for the what the public sheerly want. There's just no way around it. It just there's no other example whereby this is as prevalent. But anyway, look at what are your thoughts? Do you think going into Crowborough is the only way that is it better that they're there rather than in hotels? I mean, when this government first started coming out saying we're going to get them out of the hotels, but they never answered the question about, well, where are you going to put them? I think it's become massively clear that they've just got no idea, and they just think that this is a solution to expensive hotels. I don't care about the fact that putting them in I do care a little bit about the fact that putting them in hotels is expensive and a drain on taxpayers' money, but then also putting them in a rural setting where you haven't even done any sort of safety checks, or you haven't even implemented any sort of safety measures yourself. You've just dumped 600 odd blokes that we have absolutely no idea about in the middle of rural England, on the doorstep of majoritively retired people, and and that's your solution? I mean, that's still costing you money, and it's still a sacrifice. I mean, that Crowborough facility used to get 6,000 odd young cadets and stuff come through there on a weekly, on a monthly sort of basis. A lot of them would go on and join the military. Now that base is no longer in action, and it's probably not going to be in action for the next at least 5 years, at least. What about the cost of those young cadets that now don't have a place to get together and do those drills and do those parades and do those, weeks and months away learning those skills and potentially going into the armed forces? What about those? So they're just basically not going to do it now, and they'll basically just end up probably just sitting on the couch and earning benefits, and because there's no route available for them anymore. But it's okay, because we've housed some migrants, and okay, yeah, look, a fair few of them probably wander off. That's okay. Did you know if any, like, they're not bound to the facilities there? They're not bound to the location. They're not locked in there. Right, as soon as the sun comes up, all right, boys, all right, lads, all right, get into town if you want, stretch your legs, no worries. Yeah, Muhammad, if you guys just want to, just have a walk into town, see what you want to do. There's a couple of parks there next to some schools and stuff. And if you come back, you come back. If you don't, look, we'll just check you off. We'll just say Muhammad didn't return, and he's probably found somewhere better, So that's one less person we have to worry about looking after, isn't it? We've done our job. It's just a joke. The whole thing is a farce. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the matter? Do you think, would you like to live in Crowborough? Would you think that, is that a place now on your map to buy a house in and become a part of that community? No chance in hell for me. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. What are your thoughts? Get them down below. Obviously, if you'd like to like the video, that'd be great. If you'd like to share it, that'd be amazing. If you'd like to subscribe, I would love you long time. But thank you all for the support, and I'll talk to you later. This is Roger Roadside saying, be good to your mum.